Welcome to this Finding Journal Articles Self-Study tutorial. My name is Dr. Tim Zelstra. I am the NHS librarian for Tayside, and this tutorial mainly serves people that use the Knowledge Network to search for articles. There will be a wide range of videos available on this channel on all sorts of different topics, but this is one that helps you to make the most of the Knowledge Network, so hopefully you enjoy it. As part of the sort of house rules, this is meant to be seen on a large screen so you can read what it says on the slides, and also so you have access to a secondary browser window so that you can do some of the exercises that I will be talking through, and so you can follow along with where I am if you need to. So the way that this will work is that I will let you know when to pause the video so you can do something on the Knowledge Network so you can get used to doing searches that way. And then after a while, when you've done what I've asked you to do, you can continue the video and hopefully stay on top of where we are. So you could split this in multiple parts if you want to, if you remember where you left last time, so that it's not too long. And then finally, this recording will take about half an hour, I think. If you add in the exercises, if you do them thoroughly, probably 45 minutes. So it shouldn't take too much time, but please do use a large screen. Right, so what are we actually talking about? What would I like you to learn? Well, I initially think that it's really important to discuss what the Knowledge Network is and what it offers. So the Knowledge Network is an important tool for us here in NHS Scotland, and I think it's important that you understand what it is and how it works. I would also like you to know how to construct a search using advanced search. Now, whenever something says advanced, it's a bit scary, but really the reality, in my opinion and in my experience with library searches, is that advanced search tends to be easier once you get your head around it. We are going to look at how to refine a search, and we are also going to look at how to save or share your results, because there's not a lot of point in finding things and then not knowing what to do with them when you found them. So the Knowledge Network can be found at knowledge.scot.nhs.uk. And if you don't mind, it would be very useful if you opened a browser window now and pop that address in. So knowledge.scot.nhs.uk. I will keep talking, but hopefully you will get enough information whilst you are doing that so that it doesn't stop your flow too much. So the Knowledge Network is a network of library and knowledge services in Scotland. All the boards, territorial and specialist boards, or practically all the boards, have a library and knowledge service. We here at NHS Tayside consist of me, and we work very closely with this broad network to make sure that you get library services delivered. We're very much focused on e-resources as a network. So it's all about journal articles, databases, and other evidence sources. And I will touch on those in a second. The total budget we have is around £3 million per year. And that is a decent amount. I know it sounds like a big figure. It's less than what, for example, a large university might have. But because we are so focused on health and social care, it tends to be a really good offer. So I actually think we do better than some universities in terms of the e-resources we have access to. And on top of that, we have access to some specialist tools that you wouldn't find at universities. I'm talking about universities on purpose because you may not be aware that you can sign up to be a NHS staff member for the University of Dundee Library Robertson Trust at Ninewells, and you can also sign up with Abertay, so you can use the Abertay University Libraries as well. But the Ninewells Library allows you to take 6 physical items out and to use the wonderful space that is the Robertson Trust Library on level 7 and 8 at Ninewells. So I touched on this briefly, but I think it is really relevant to explain what a journal is, what a database is, and what evidence sources are, in particular in relation to what you are going to learn today. So a journal is the oldest form of academic publication that's not a book, it's not a monograph. A journal is a collected assembly, if you like, of articles written by different people on the latest advances in whatever it is that they are talking about in that journal. So a biomedical journal will focus on biomedicine, and a journal on frogs in the Amazon will concentrate on frogs in the Amazon. So these journals over time, when they were still printed, would build up and open up. They would have different volumes, and within those different volumes, they would have issues. And that's where those terms come from. So volume 14, issue 3 could be 1984 publication, and then it could be that that's the autumn publication. So when you see those terms, think back to when they were printed and how they would actually be presented to the audience before the time of computers. Now that we have computers, though, it's not necessary anymore to walk along bookshelves with journals on them and finding your article that way. You can use databases to search for all these different journals. And the way that works is that all the different publishers have their own types of database, and they will actually index all sorts of material in that database that is then made available to an organization if they choose to pay for access to that particular journal or to particular content in that database. So we don't have access to everything because that would be unaffordable, but we have access to really good quality health and social care journals through a variety of databases. Then on top of that, and I will go to the next slide to show you this as well, we have something that we call point of care evidence sources. This is relevant because we are aware that it can be very difficult for people to find evidence quickly, particularly if it is in journal articles. My mission is to try and make it as easy as possible for you to get used to finding things, to using library searches, but we are aware that sometimes you need something in a hurry at the point of care, and you don't really want to be opening up the knowledge network to find articles, read through articles, and then tell the patient. So what we are developing more and more as information professionals is these resources that we have available at the point of care. And there will be a separate video discussing all this. When that video goes up, I'll put a link somewhere in this video and link to it. So that is relevant to know. So Primo, what is it and why do we use it? I will just show you what Primo looks like here. So the Knowledge Network is the website that we land on. If you want to find any content that we have as the Knowledge Network, you will find it on this website. And Primo is our specialist search engine. So when you click on library search or when you use this search box here, you will actually find that we have Primo ready and available. And this is what we call the simple search or the easy search. And we also have something called the advanced search. So Primo is really useful, and we are going to talk about Primo a lot, and you'll be using Primo in a minute as well. What Primo is it's a tool that allows us in the Knowledge Network to find all the resources that we subscribe to and present them to you in an orderly fashion. So in a way, it's like a Google search engine, but then specifically for library resources. And that's really important. It means that the results that you get are reliable, consistent, and you will be able, if you have selected that option anyway, to access the content that you find. And I will just demonstrate what I mean with if you selected that option. So this is about the ability to limit the things we have access to, which I think is really important. So going back to Primo, I'm just going to find a random search term and I'm going to click on a result, right? So let's say psoriasis. Psoriasis, there. So you will notice that we have access to this book here, online access it says. So it's probably an ebook that we have available. It says here full text available, EBSCO hosts ebooks. So I now know that we could access this instantly if I clicked on online access. But I might also want to include results that we don't have access to. And to do that, you can click on expand my results. And what that does is it finds a significantly larger amount of results because the databases that we use to populate our Primo find things everywhere and they will know whether we have access or not. So when you expand your results, you can find things that we don't have access to. So that's really important to know. And the reason that is relevant is because sometimes if you want to do a really extensive literature search and you don't really care whether we have access or not, you need to know how to do that. So expand my results allows you to look at a much wider population of returns. So we use Primo primarily to search different sources that we have available, but we can also use databases. And I'm just going to show you real quick how that works. If you are in Primo, at the top you will find database search, and database search allows you to, for example, find Medline. And if you click on that, you'll be getting access to Medline. Now, if you're working from home, like I am today, you might need to sign in into Primo. And the way you do that is just click on sign in here. If you do it in Primo, that will carry over to all the results you find. If you then go to sign in with your NHS Scotland email and password, that then means that you just sign in with your regular email account that you log into NHS computers with. It might take a second. It's always a bit iffy this whether it works or not, but it should get us through to Primo in not a problem. Right, we will try that again in a second. I don't know what's going on there. Sometimes it plays up a bit. If you just try it again in a new window, it'll fix it. So anyway, Primo is really important, and this session is about Primo in particular. So again, there will be content on the different video databases that we have, and you can find that on this YouTube channel. So you may find it useful to subscribe to this channel so you get updates about that content. If you're familiar with YouTube, you know all the stuff about like and subscribe and ding and dong. I don't quite know how it works, but you probably do. So do. Actually, I do know how it works. I just don't want to explain it. Right. So what we are going to talk about today is how to construct a search string. So this is a bit of a technical terminology. You can get a query, which is a natural language query, and then you can look at making that into a search string. And the search string is basically a string of words that you put into the search engine that will then return results. And you manipulate that search string to get better results. Don't worry, I know that might sound complicated. It's not that bad. So I will have an example of a query here. And the query could well be, I am looking for evidence that demonstrates using ibuprofen helps with managing pain from ruptured tendons. And I've selected this query on purpose because there's a number of things that we need to know about before we go ahead. So the first thing that we need to do is find out what are the key terms in this sentence. And the keywords are ibuprofen, managing pain, and ruptured tendons. So in this session, I'm going to go through all three of them and explain how you can find more information, related information, how you can better search, how you get better results. So the first word there is ibuprofen, and I've put a very pink slide in to make sure that you stay awake because we're about halfway to the end roughly. So yeah, this will hopefully keep you awake. And ibuprofen is a medicine, we all know what it is, but it might be a medicine that you're not that familiar with and you might need to find some more information about. So we're going to the knowledge network again. And then if you see more information sources here, you can also see that we have access to medicines information resources. If you click on that, you can then open the BNF, British National Formulary, which is now presented to us by Medicines Complete. And what this basically does, hopefully, I'm not signed in, am I? No. And what this will do is give us access to extensive information about medicine. So if I don't know enough about ibuprofen, then I can search for that and I get the BNF readout on ibuprofen. And you will notice that there's a lot of information here, right? So the BNF is a point of care knowledge tool. It's an evidence tool. And this is really important to realize that you've already been using these tools for years, decades, maybe even the century. because there used to be a BNF come out every 3 months, I believe, and every ward would have a BNF on it, and you would pick that up if you quickly needed to look up something about medication. These days, we do it on an app, we do it on the website, and it gives you all sorts of information. So why is that relevant? Well, because I want to know more about ibuprofen and I want to expand my search options for ibuprofen. And one of the things I found when I looked at ibuprofen was that it was a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. Yes, I did practice that. An NSAID is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. Now, this could be bread and butter to you. You probably know this, but it's important to note that I might have a doctorate, but I'm not a medicines doctor. I'm an information specialist, and I don't know enough about medicine. So I have to look these things up, and it's a useful way to demonstrating how you find more information. So what that means then is that we can actually search better, more specifically for ibuprofen. So I will show you how that would work. We will use what we know as Boolean operators. Now you don't need to remember Boolean, you just need to remember and or not. What and does is actually narrow the results. So if you look for something like ibuprofen and NSAID, it will narrow the results because it will expect both words to appear in the area that you are looking for. And I will show you that in a second. But if you use or, it will broaden the results. So if you use ibuprofen or NSAID, what it will do is actually expand the results that you get back because it will look specifically for either word. Okay? And then not will actually exclude it. So for example, if you're looking for ibuprofen and you know it's an NSAID, but you don't want results from other NSAIDs, you can exclude NSAID. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like. If we go to library search again, this time we will sign in without a problem. I really hope, because otherwise it's slightly annoying. There we go. It took a second, but there we go. And then if we look for ibuprofen or NSAID, we will get a number of results. And these numbers are actually relevant. We will talk about that in a bit. So you can see that we get 216,748 results. Now, if I replace or and say and, so I want both of them to appear, I should be getting fewer than this 216. Let's see what we get now. We get 25,000. So you can see that it's already reduced enormously. So that's what we wanted. Or if I say ibuprofen, not NSAID, we will get a whole different set of results again. We get 57. So you can see how important these terms are in structuring your search. So and or not. Right. The next term that we are going to talk about is managing pain. Now, managing pain is in its active tense. It's saying you are going to be managing, which is a verb, pain. One of the things that really helps is to make it into a passive term. So rather than managing pain, let's talk about pain management. Now, you can forget about that if you're not really into grammar or anything like that, but usually this is a good way to find a key word or a key term, and taking the verb out of it will make it easier to find good results. You could also look for pain relief, and that is something else that is like a synonym. So pain management and pain relief are sort of linked to each other in a way, but you may find that articles specify particularly pain relief and others specify particularly pain management. So using an or would be very appropriate here. And if you did some homework and you probably already know this being clinical, but you may find that there's different types of pain, and if there is a particular type of pain that you are looking for, does ibuprofen work, for example, on chronic tendon pain? You might want to find out. You can then add the different pain types as well. So you could add chronic. So you can see how you can construct a search based on the keywords that you've got. Okay. So relieve me of the pain of literature searches. I've put this in on purpose because I like silly jokes. But I think it is relevant. So here you can see I've made it into active again. Relieve with VE is now a verb rather than a noun, and therefore relieve me of the pain of literature searches. Yeah, good job. I'm a librarian and not a comic. And then the final one. This is a really interesting aspect, I think, of what we are talking about. Ruptured tendons is not really clear enough. It doesn't give me enough information. You can rupture the tendon in all sorts of different places in your body. So are we talking about an Achilles tendon? Are we talking about a patellar tendon? About the rotator cuff? What is going on? Are we talking exclusively about tendons, or are we also talking about ligaments? And this is one of those situations where you, as the person searching, will have to go into your mind and start looking for different words, better words. How specific do you want it to be? And then you can construct a better search. Okay? I've added here musculoskeletal because that could be a sort of big gun approach. You want to look at musculoskeletal and ibuprofen and pain management, for example. So does ibuprofen work, and in which situations does it work for musculoskeletal? That could be a way to do it. So there's all these different things that you need to consider as you go forward. Now the point is that language matters. It really does. When you construct a literature search, you have to get the language right. The better the words are that you use, the better the terms are that you use, the more and higher quality the results are going to be. Not more, fewer. But again, we'll get to that soon. So to do that, you just practice. And you're going to practice as part of this video. We're going to show you how to do this in 5 minutes. But it's all about searching, practicing, practicing, practicing. You can't break the search. So don't worry about it. Just use it. Look for anything that you're interested in. If your auntie is calling up and says, "Oh, I've got this and this and this, can you help?" Like the family members always do, you can then go on to the Knowledge Network and find some information for them and hopefully keep them quiet. So this is really useful stuff, but you need to practice it. And if you don't practice it, you will not get better at it. We are going to have a look at this as well. So in your library search, when you select an article that you found, you can get really precise, detailed information. So in this case, we know that ibuprofen, blah, 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 blah. We know where it's available at Wishaw General, but we know that it was published in 2015 by John Wiley and Sons in Hoboken, New Jersey, and Chichester in West Sussex. So it's probably British, American focused, whatever that may mean. And then you can go down and you can also see the subject categories. And this is really powerful as well. So if you are looking for ibuprofen, you may not realize that there's two different ways to use it. There's one that's the pharmacological side and one that's the therapeutic use. And what's really interesting about that is that it will help you expand your search if you need to. Then the other thing, if we scroll down even further, oh, have we not got it here? No, we don't seem to have it here. Let me see if I can find a journal article instead. Yeah, if you find a journal article, you will also find this subjects bit. And again, that's really useful as well, because then you can actually find different search terms that relate to this particular article. And when you find a really good article and you go, "Oh, this is exactly the sort of stuff you need," then you may find that by going through this subject list, you can find lots more good content on that particular topic. So if you realize that this one is really good because you're interested in the physiology of beta coronavirus, you can click on that and it'll actually create a new search for you with all the articles that have that as a subject term. So that's a really powerful way of finding more information as well. Right, we've talked about it. I'll keep this very brief because you are going to practice this in a second. So the number of results is really relevant. If you get more than 10,000 results, you probably have too much to go through, right? You don't really want to tangle with that many results. If you have under 1,000, you're probably at a good starting point. If you have around 100, you've not got too many or too few, and that could well be time to start digging through the results and getting more information. And then if you have under 50, it's definitely time to start checking the results. What you will find when you check it is either the results are all really good, or they're not quite what you wanted, or they're really not what you wanted. If you find that they're really not what you wanted, you've probably misconstructed the search. If they're really good, you're probably on the right track in terms of the search. So keep that in mind. Now, it's really important not to stare yourself to death on these numbers because they're not that relevant. It's really different. So ibuprofen will have lots of results because it's a very popular drug that's used all the time. Whereas if it's a very sort of infrequently used drug or therapy or whatever it is, there might only be a couple of results. So bear that in mind when you're searching. And even when you get a really precise search, you may well have found non-applicable articles. The way that the search engine works and links things together and with using something called machine learning means that you will sometimes find stuff that's not relevant, even though the search engine thinks it should be relevant. And you can actually do stuff to counter that. And you also inadvertently lose applicable articles, not necessarily through your fault. It could well be that an author in a different field wrote about the thing that you really want to know about, but used different terminology, different subject terms to talk about that particular area. So sometimes it's really worth looking for a different field and see what is being said there. This mainly applies to things like business studies, for example. In my field of information science, I always find it useful to also have a look at what's going on in IT and what's going on in business studies because I know that people use different terminology to look at things that I'm looking at. To get everything right, you would need a systematic review team. I'm not going to touch systematic reviews in this video. Again, there will be a video on that available soon. So don't worry. You don't need to be doing a systematic review unless you really know what you're doing. So it's time to try. And this is where I would like you to open the browser window with knowledge.scott.nhs.uk. I'm going to be quiet for a while and then you can try and find articles about the topic that interests you, or if you aren't feeling creative, find articles that discuss the impact of Class A drug use in adolescents and young adults in the United Kingdom. I suggest you pause the video here. I will stay quiet for 30 seconds. So when I come back, we can start again. So I have been a bit mean here. I haven't actually shown you how to use the advanced search. So that might well have affected the way that you searched. Do you actually use advanced search? Did you use simple search? And how did you find it? I hope that you went, he mentioned advanced search was important and then had a play with that. But in case you didn't, I will just show you how advanced search works and then maybe you could try again. So if we open library search and well, let me just go all the way to the beginning. Library search, you get this screen. You can easily click on advanced search here. Now, this is a scarier looking window maybe, but actually it is a really useful tool. When you start a new search, always click clear. Clear will just make sure that there's nothing left from before, so you don't have this set title, for example, which would limit the way that you find things. Whilst I am talking about that field, that any field thing, I can talk about how you can use that to make things more specific. So if you get way too many results, which may well have happened, what you can do is say, oh, well, in that case, I only want the subject to be containing that particular term. You could even say that you only want it to be exactly that term, or that it starts with that term. Now this is a bit tricky and I don't recommend you use this. If you want to have exact searches, what I would say is that you do something like this with the quotation marks, emergency department, or A&E, or accident. Just as a reminder, I've just remembered that this slide here, I've actually put in because I wanted to highlight the use of quotation marks. So what happens here is that this whole sentence is found as a result of what you are searching for. So the quotation marks and or will make sure that you find a wider amount of results related to the terms that you've specified. So emergency department or accident and emergency or whatever it is. And if we do that, we should get a number of results. So we've selected subject and we get 49,000 results. I will just unselect subject, say any field, anywhere in the article or whatever it is. And now it will probably return, there we go, over 1.5 million results. So this is very powerful. If you change this to title, you will then only get things that have any of these terms in the title, right? And that's a lot less again. But you can see that we still get loads of results because actually just looking for the emergency department isn't really specific. It doesn't give us a lot. So we are then going to make the search more specific by looking at, for example, Great Britain, right? And because it's Great Britain, we also need to look for the United Kingdom. And we might as well also look for Scotland and England, Wales. I say and I type in or. I realize that is complicated. So just to repeat again, or will let you find more results. It includes that term as well. So search again, and we've now got 18,500. So this is anything where accident and emergency is in the title, and that is a result based on whether it also has Great Britain or United Kingdom or Scotland. If we make this subject, we will get even less, 3,000. And if we make this title, there, we will get even less. So now we will only find results where it says accident and emergency in the United Kingdom, emergency in Scotland, accident and emergency in the United Kingdom, accident and emergency departments in Scotland, right? So you can see how this is really powerful to limit the search. But the other thing that you really want to do is make sure you have the right context of the search that you're looking for. Because unless you are writing a very broad essay on all accident and emergency departments in the UK, you might want to be more specific. So if I just drop these back to any field, and I just add something like a situation, we'll go back to ibuprofen because it's handy, and we can also add or non-steroid, and we can also add tendinitis or tendinitis. I said that there were two ways to spell that, so I can show that now. And then if we click on search, what we will get is 229 results. So we can make this even more specific if we want to. Let's just say we don't want to know about the United Kingdom or England or Wales. We just want to know about Scotland. And then we find 47 results, right? So by playing around with that search in advanced, you can get really good results. So I'm just going to let you get back to the exercise for a few minutes and then see where you get to as you do this yourself. So let's go back here and here, and I'll disappear again just long enough for you to be able to try again. So hopefully you now find using that a bit less daunting, a bit less scary, and you're able to create search terms that you can use again and again. For example, if you want to keep up to date on a topic, or you will actually be able to find information on a particular topic effectively. So when you have found things, you will need to do stuff with it. So I'm just going to show you how I save things and how I can manipulate that, send it as an email or put it in reference manager, something like that. So you see that I've just clicked this button here. What this does is select what I've got available, and I get 25 because I have set my page to have 25 results per page. If I change that to 10, and I select it, I will only get 10 records. I can also choose the top 47 because that's all the results I have, or I could get 50, I think it normally says. I'm not sure why it's only selected 41, not entirely sure. What I can also do is save this search. So I'm not going to click on that now because my save search thing gets really full with stuff if I do that. But if you do this, it'll put it in this bin. And this pin is actually really powerful because if I click on this, I can now add this to favorites and I can say, ooh, I want a label on here, trial finding journals, right? So what then happens is I get my favorites. Forgive me for the dog barking, that happens sometimes. And if I click on trial finding journals, I get these results that I've just saved. So I can now manipulate this list and do things with it. I can, for example, if I have a specific one, click on that little three dot menu if you like, and I can then do stuff like get the citation, send it to RefWorks or EndNote, export RIS, this is used for other reference managers. I can even export it to Excel, which will give me the citation broken up in different Excel fields. I can use a permalink, which I think is really cool. So this is a link that doesn't change ever. So that means that in the future, if someone was to use this link, they would find this particular publication. I can share it, which I think is less cool, is pretty daft actually. But you could share it on WhatsApp or Facebook or Twitter if you're so inclined. And a QR code, which I think is cool because what this allows you to do is put this QR code on your poster that you are sharing with a wider audience, and they use this QR code to directly go to the article that you are citing, that you are talking about. If your poster is based on your own research with your own article, you could get the QR code for your article and then put it on your poster, and then people can read the article whilst they're standing there looking at your poster. So that is, in my opinion, quite a cool implementation. The thing that I always do is I email useful results to myself, and I store them in my email inbox in a separate folder related to the project that I'm working on. To me, this is just the way that fits best with my workflow. You can understand, as a librarian, I'm always creating literature reviews, literature lists, and sending them out to people. And this is just the way that I find it most practicable. And if you are so inclined, you can waste paper and print it as well. So you do that by clicking on that little menu there. So we've touched on that. We've touched on that, so you can pin these articles, and we've touched on labeling your results. Each time you have results in your favorites list, let's look for a different one, 60-minute label. What will happen is it will also add the date that you've added it to this list, and it will also add the author and the title. So that is quite relevant to know, that you can sort it based on that as well. Sorting it is pretty straightforward. You just go sort by date added, and you can say title. And then the list, you can actually make this smaller, by the way. Then the list will be sorted by title, and if you sort it by author, all of a sudden you have a list that matches, for example, a bibliography, which might be useful as well. So those are the key things for sharing your results with other people. Right, that is the end of this presentation. I think it's about 35 minutes. Not sure, you will have to let me know. But yeah, this is basically the self-guided tutorial to finding journal articles. My name is Dr. Tim Zijlstra. I'm your NHS librarian at Tayside. If you want to speak to me, if you want to have a one-to-one on anything, if you want some help with something, you can always email me at t.librarians@nhs.scot or timotheus.zijlstra@nhs.scot. I've not included that here because I know people struggle with it, but if you type Timothy, remove the Y, and then add EUS, you will definitely find me. Yes, the joy of Frisian names. Right, I hope you found that useful. If you did, do let me know. I always love hearing feedback. If you found something confusing, if you found something that didn't quite work for you, then please do let me know as well so that I can re-record this and fix it. Thank you. Bye bye.